Spending lots of time searching outside of yourself to find happiness, joy, health, and wealth? With each new acquired good or goal reached, are you once again jumping on the gerbil wheel, searching for that next thing to make you happy? The answers we are searching for are actually inside of us, and the connection we are looking for is one with self. Explore these and other self-reflective questions here on Finding the Spark Within. Hosted by Christin Collins, discover how you can connect with your purpose and achieve true happiness, meaning, and well-being. Don't miss tuning in and find the spark within.
Hi, Christin Collins with the latest episode of Find the Spark Within podcast. As we do each and every episode, I hold space with someone who has deeply touched my soul and sparked something deep within me. And Jennifer Kauffman is going to be someone that I think is going to resonate for you too. Jennifer has been a very successful corporate woman, community leader, athlete, you name it. Jennifer's excelled at it and found herself one day in 2013 at the Boston Marathon, where unfortunately she had been severely injured in those bombings. And she found from that experience the question percolating, there's got to be more to life. And there is a new movie out about her life titled just that. After watching that movie a few weeks ago, I reached out and said, I have to connect with you. I have to meet you because our stories are very parallel, and to where she took this traumatic, horrible experience and really embraced it to open her up to how she could reimagine and rethink her life's walk. And her mindset shift has been transformative. So enjoy this conversation with Jennifer Kauffman on the latest episode of Find the Spark Within podcast. Hi, Christin Collins, and welcome to our new episode of the Find the Spark Within podcast. Every week, I know I'm very excited to share with you someone who has touched my heart and my soul. But this week, I got to tell you, I am beyond excited to share with you my new soul sister, my new friend, my new mentor and guide, my Thelma to my Louise, Jennifer Kauffman. Jennifer, welcome.
Oh, Christin, thank you. I'm going to cry. And I feel the same way. I feel, actually, let's jump in here, because what's fascinating is we know a mutual person, and you watched my film and then you were like, I just got to meet her. And then the minute we connected, I just felt like I've known you. I've known you for a lifetime. And the reality is we just met in the last 30 days. But I think this is it. Like, we're at a time now where we're finding our new tribe mates, both men and women. Like, I've been in this process of like letting go, rising up, like in all of this. And what's happening is because I'm transforming, like I'm starting to attract other people that are vibrating and resonating in a similar space. And I don't know where this is going, but you and I both know like we're meant to do something together. And I think it's beyond just today's talk. Who knows? But what's fun is I feel so connected and alive with you. And every time I see your name on my calendar, and granted it's only been like 3 or 4 weeks now, I get excited. I'm like, I get to go play. Like, you bring out the kid in me. Like, I'm like, I just want to go play.
Well, now we can just spend a half hour dissecting all of that juice, because that was simply gorgeous. This is called the Find the Spark Within podcast, right? And why is that? Because as you know, all the answers, all the joy, all the satiation, all the wholeness is within already. And it is from that place of wholeness, when we show up and interconnect from that lens, that we attract just the most fabulous, mind-blowing. So thank you for being you. Thank you for putting yourself out to the world. And I want to start by expressing for others who, when they cross with something that blows their mind, take a chance, take a pause, reach out, connect. So I was watching your documentary, which, by the way, Dr. Ken Harris put in front of me. And thank you, Ken, for doing that. And I just felt like I was watching my own journey, but someone who it just so resonated with me. It just so resonated with me that I knew instinctually I have to connect with her because our paths are so parallel. I think that's important when you're finding your own spark within and then you resonate with someone else's journey. That connectivity is really, really inspiring. So for folks who don't know who Jennifer Kauffman is yet or haven't watched your amazing movie, can you give us a synopsis of the background of your journey and what brought you to put your life on screen?
Yeah, which was actually a huge act of courage and vulnerability and one I wrestled with. So I want to say that to your viewers up front. But how you have those nudges and those sparks of curiosity or those sparks of insight or dreams. And what is fascinating, as a little girl, one of my dreams was I wanted to be in the movies someday, right? Little did I know what that really meant and how it would come to manifest how it did today. I was thinking Hollywood movies, those kinds of things, although I have been in a Hollywood movie actually, but you would never know it because if you blink, you wouldn't even see it. But here's the thing. Bottom line is in 2013, I was standing 15 feet from the first of two explosions at the Boston Marathon bombings. I had never been to the marathon before. I had born and raised in the Boston area. I went to undergrad, grad school in the city, and I worked in the city. I never had a desire to go to the marathon. But this day was different because a very dear friend of mine asked if I would accompany her to see her son run for the first time. And he was graduating med school, becoming a doctor, and I knew my way around the city. So that's why I was there. But here's the irony. The irony is that it took that horrific experience to stop me from running from myself. I had childhood trauma. I had young adulthood trauma, and I did not know how to deal with that. Yes, I had done traditional talk therapy from time to time, and I was on a lot of medication to numb my pain because I wasn't taught until recently, until the last 9 years, how to actually deal with this and actually release it. So why I created this film is to share. I got really real and naked, not literally, thank God for the viewers. But I literally opened up my journey. I'm a very outgoing person, but I'm also very private and very personal. Why did I do it? Because the truth is, I want people's journey of rising and thriving to be easier than my own. And if I can ignite a spark, this is my soul's purpose. If I can ignite a spark that lights someone else up to save their lives. In fact, this film already has. I've received messages that I was on the verge of committing suicide. And after watching your film, I was re-inspired with hope and a mission. So it's to remember we are designed to thrive in life, but we're often live in a world of suffering or struggle or just getting by. And we might have ebbs and flows of that. But I created the film to bring people back home to themselves, to reignite that spark within their soul that's nudging them to rise up to their best version of themselves, whatever that looks like.
And for folks who have been walking in community either recently or for a longer period of time with me, I'm sure they have goosebumps too, because all of the same vibrations, the same keywords, the same thoughtful introspection is the stuff that I hold space for all the time. We're not here to be in flow with life. This is not supposed to be this massive workout against life. And the way to get there is to reconnect with self and to let go and to have that faith and to enjoy the ride. Even when the ride hands us the quote unquote negative, how do we know the positive or how do we know the joy without the sorrow we came here to experience? So thank you for that. And then the whole concept of rising from the ashes like her phoenix. And so you and I are so on the same page. I just can't stand it. So when I was watching the movie and watching the horrific experience that you had, which completely, obviously, that's the trauma that stopped you to pause and reflect. Can you take us a little bit, and folks who are more interested can, of course, watch your movie, but take us a little bit into the moment when you found yourself in the hospital and your instinct to not follow that path per se to your healing and well-being?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of backstory so it makes sense for the viewers. So I was in the ER, obviously, after that experience. And my experience in the ER was equally traumatic. And I praise the doctors and nurses that came to my rescue to be there for me. But they don't know what they don't know. And this is what I learned over time. And this is a retrospect. I was convulsing from the neck down. And of course, they were concerned for my well-being that I wouldn't fall off the gurney. So they restrained me. Little did I know that restraint, literally, I felt trapped in my own body. I felt like my body naturally knew it needed to release all the adrenaline and the cortisol and the stuff that was just flowing through my body. It's like, it's a normal reaction. Again, I want to be really clear here. I'm so grateful to doctors and nurses because they do a lot of amazing work. And I truly believe they didn't know what they didn't know. But for me, I literally felt like I was trapped. Fast forward, I had a battery of tests to figure out what was going on. And I remember being wheeled in. It was either for a CAT scan or MRI. And it was just me and the technician. And the technician had said, I need to inject you with this dye. And this dye is going to make you feel like you're going to wet your pants. You're going to feel like you have this fever. You're going to have this metal taste in your mouth, like you're sucking on a coin. And I'm like, I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that. Can't you do the test without that? And they said, well, no, we need to do that to see if you're bleeding internally. And I'm like, I don't want it. And so I was literally wrestling, like, I don't want this with this woman. But it became really clear, like, I had to do it in order to see if I was having internal bleeding. And so I had to make a choice to do something that I really didn't want to do. But at the same token, I wasn't ready to die yet, if that makes sense. Yes. So I get injected with this stuff and I feel all of those things and more. And I already felt awful. I already was in excruciating pain. I already didn't know what the hell was going on. I can't even begin to process, like, did what just happened really just happen? Am I in this like complete twilight zone of a nightmare? I couldn't make sense of anything. Fast forward, I get wheeled back into my ER room and I hear this insight and my intuition, my higher self basically saying, you've got to learn how to heal naturally. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. My background is in business. My background is in economics and finance. I don't have a medical background. I don't have a freaking clue how to do this. But I want to share something with you. I was 42 years old when the bombings happened. When I turned 40, I didn't feel like my vibrant self. So I was still active. I was still occasionally doing triathletes and doing these other things, but like my body just didn't feel good. So I went and I had a battery of tests done, like typical lab work stuff. And they're like, hey, you're fine. I'm like, I'm fine, but I don't feel fine. So fast forward, a good friend of mine who we did a lot of transformational courses together. And she said to me, hey, there's this gentleman who basically has a lab in a suitcase and he'll come to your home and he'll run your lab work and put it under a microscope and tell you what's going on. I go, that's freaking weird. I'm like, what's this guy going to tell me that the lab that just ran my test results are like, how is that going to be any different? She's like, trust me, just go with it. To me, this was woo-woo, out far in my comfort zone. But honestly, I was really like, what's going on with my body? So I hired this guy to come into my home. He pricks my finger, sticks it on a thing. And I barely said anything to this guy, literally. He goes, did you have a head injury? I go, how does he know that? He was able to detect it just by looking at my blood. And then he said, have you been on a lot of medication over the years? And I said, actually, I have. Starting from when I was a little girl, I had a lot of ear infections. So I was on a lot of antibiotics. Fast forward, I had a lot of acne. So who wants acne? So I was on a lot of antibiotics for that. Then because I struggled with panic and anxiety disorder and depression on and off because of the childhood trauma that I had in young adulthood, I was on these medications. So what was happening was my liver was compromised because of all of the medication I had been on. So just so you understand, so my soul was nudging me in the ER, you've got to find another way. Now, hence the name of the film, there's got to be more to life. One of my coping mechanisms to deal with my childhood, young adulthood trauma was to be an overachiever. Anyone else know what that's like? Like you work your ass off over and over and over again, hamster on the treadmill, on steroids, like hello. And every time like, oh, I'm going to go after that big goal because no one else can do it. And so it's just like this martyr's type of syndrome, but it got me to see another part of myself. I be willing to do whatever it takes to achieve success in my life, but at the cost of myself, at the cost of relationships, at the cost of having a family, the cost of some of my closest friends. And here's the thing, I was willing, on some level, I was willing to do that because I was longing to feel fulfilled, longing to feel this joy and happiness. And so I thought reaching, whether it was a material possession or whether it was a goal at work or whatever, or doing a triathlon when someone said I couldn't do it, whatever it was. And I would reach that goal. And don't misunderstand, I would have a momentary bout of happiness and joy, but it was short-lived. I think the gas in my car could go longer. Like I could drive a longer distance than what that joy and happiness was. And I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing? Like, there's got to be more to life. Because I'm like, is this really what we came here for? To go through this? I don't think so. So fast forward, took a bomb. And this is where I will say, yes, it was the most horrific experience of my life. I don't wish it on any soul. And it's the greatest gift of my life because it blew me open. It did two things.
Yeah.
It blew me open to get rid of that old trauma and learn that I could heal from that, literally heal from that naturally. And it's coming up on 9 years. And I can look here before you. I took no medication. I learned how to heal from immense physical, emotional, mental, spiritual trauma 100% naturally. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Thank you so much for walking us through that. And again, for folks who have been in community, they understand just the parallel is mind-blowing. It is so beautiful how you healed yourself from the inside out and you finally embraced the nudges that became over the head whack so that you could go ahead and heal, release, and then thrive, and then help guide others as a lighthouse by authentically sharing your amazing journey. The parallel too, while I was in healthcare, when I went through my own awakening, it's funny because I'm not clinical. So like you, as just a corporate human, I think it sometimes is easier for us because we're not bogged down with all of the education and the years of investing into that. And we're just like, whoa, this actually isn't working for me. And there are moments that it does work, but there's lots of moments that there's alternative ways. So take us through one of your favorite ways that you work for you and for I. There were multiple vehicles, multiple avenues we've explored and enjoyed in our healing process. But pick one that you at the beginning was just like, there's no way, or this is weird, or it crossed very divinely that you want to share with others.
Okay, there's actually two I'll quickly share with you. One is this, and I want to actually say here, is that my path is my path, your path is your path. Everyone's got to find their path. How do you do that? You align, you feel into all of the practitioners that showed up in my life. I had to have a resonance with, and I said to them, we are in this together. It is not your way or the highway. It is like, it's our way. And if you cannot be with my feedback and what I'm saying to you, you're not part of my team. And I made that very clear up front. I have no time for and I have no time for this. And I'm done being told what to do and how I should feel and all that. I'm the expert of my own body. So if it resonates, we'll go down the path. If it doesn't, I'm going to say, nope, we need to talk about something else. So I want to say that to your listeners. Trust your instincts, trust yourself. Do not abdicate. Do not delegate your health and your well-being to anyone. Don't. You take responsibility for it and co-create it with the people in your life. There's two things that I did that I never would have done before, and they happened almost instantaneously after the bombings took place. One was, now I had been familiar with chiropractor because being an athlete in sports, like I needed to get adjusted, right? And so that worked for me. But putting needles in myself and doing acupuncture, that's weird. But that's what I used to manage my pain. And it was very effective. And it got the energy and the chi to move in my body, and it helped my body to release the trauma over time. So that was one. The second is what's called brain integration treatment. What the hell is that? And even to this day, I couldn't even tell you the exact way. I'm going to tell you my layman, non-medical way to describe this. It's a kinesiology-based modality. The way I look at it is you look at the disconnection between your brain and your body. So for me, it felt like I was rewiring, like, oh, notice this pain that you feel here, or this discomfort that you feel here in your side or your abdomen has a direct link to what's happening in your brain. And the neural pathway is disconnected or frayed. So they do some process, which frankly seemed weird. But here's the thing. And actually, a dear friend of mine gifted me this. Thank God she did, because I never would have paid for it up front, truth be told. But she gifted me my first session. I thought it was weird. But here's the thing. I left that session and I had instant relief. That's how I knew it worked. So it was like somebody took the pressure valve and opened up the pressure ways. And it was like, oh, so it's like, I want more of that. My body wants more of this. So it was a rewiring of the neural pathways, because what happened from being so close to the blast, for those of you that are drawn to watch my film, you'll learn from Eileen McCusick. Eileen McCusick is the pioneer of biofield tuning. And she does a session on me and says, oh my God, your energetic field is like Swiss cheese. Because I was so close to the blast, it literally, and so my energetic field was fragmented. Hence my physical body was too. So brain integration treatment literally rebuilt the neural pathway so that it helped me to regain mobility in my body, and frankly, helped me to integrate my mind, body, and soul on another level. I never would have done this before. The intellectual side of me, listen, I have multiple degrees. I'm a smart intellectual person from Boston. But here's the beauty of not being medically trained, not being all of that, right? But I found myself in a situation of, I knew I was on the brink of death. I knew it. And I knew that if I was going to live, I had to save myself. And I had to do it in unconventional ways, because I knew, and my body knew, it couldn't take any more synthetic medication. That wasn't going to work for me. I want to say one other thing. There's a place for medicine, 100%. And I do believe that there's an acute way, but I feel we've become accustomed to pill popping as a mechanism in hopes it's going to cure us. Guys, I've been there, done that. It never worked for me. Good luck to you. If it works for you, great. But what I've found is the true healing was living, walking through my pain and rising up from the ashes, as you speak about in your book. And that's how I got back to remembering who I am, remembering my God-given powers, and remembering I, like everyone else, has the ability to thrive. It doesn't matter what the hell's going on out in the universe. It's a choice.
Amen. Today, all I kept hearing come through is release with love, and forgiveness is freedom. And it's all starting with self, so that, again, we can show up wholly. And then from that cup overflowing, be in community. I love the parallels of the acupuncture. And I know you so graciously listened to my audiobook and heard about Dr. Murdoch and how freaky that was that he crossed in my life. And that too was one of my first entrees into alternative healing that really worked for me. Where I'd want to go, though, is this concept of trusting your intuition, not only from a spiritual healing perspective of what your body needs, but as a corporate woman. And I think this is a great segue for those who have not yet embraced their intuition, either really busy dissociating from it or distracting from it. But I would sit in corporate America in many, many meetings where I just was in complete awe of the dialogue and the thought process and the strategy, because we weren't getting to root cause. And it baffled me. And I didn't have the confidence to be like, I just have a question. Like, why are we up here dealing with this when we're not understanding the why? And I drove my mother crazy as a toddler and as growing up, because all I'd ever say to her is why. And then she'd answer.
That was me.
Of course.
But why?
Of course.
But why?
And then she'd answer something and it still didn't resonate. And I'm like, but why? And that poor woman, thank you, Mom, sorry. It was this constant peeling of the onion to get to the core of why. And you had built an empire on top of the quicksand, just as I had, to overachieve, to overcompensate for. And then you wake up. I said to somebody recently, I'm like, I think that's what they call a midlife crisis. Like, the same stuff is insanity because you're spinning and you're less satiated. And then you go, what is this? Why? Why am I doing this? And so I want to revisit with you that trust and your process for trusting your intuition. For you, is it just a light switch? Like, hey, from here on out, I'm going to trust me? Or have you ebbed and flowed with that? What's your process been like?
It's an ebb and flow process. So I want to share something, right? As being somebody who I love to learn. For me, the but why was like, I always wanted to go deeper. I always wanted to get behind the, just like, but why? But why? And I want to share something that I learned in grad school. We were doing a case study on Hallmark cards of all things, right? And it was all about business process improvement. And I'll get to my point here, which is when they went and did the case study to say, okay, how is it that you do the process that you do today? Oh, we just do it. What do you mean? We've done the same process for the last 25 years. But they were able to take out a third of the steps that no longer are relevant in the day of technology and innovation. And it's like, you ask the workers, you ask the people, why are you doing that? Why not? It's worked. Oh my gosh, right? So I want to be clear here is that our intellectual minds can only go so far. Intuition is in the heart and in the gut. It's not in your head. We have 3 brains, whether we know it or not. They don't talk about this, to my knowledge, in the medical space. But we have a brain that literally lives in our gut, and it has gut flora. For those of us that had a lot of antibiotics as a kid, we don't have a lot of gut flora. So for me, trusting my gut was not an easy thing because I didn't feel much in my gut, truth be told. Now, I've done a lot of work on healing that so I can tap into that more. But that's also where our creativity center is there. And when we clear that out and clean that, we can get really great divine intuition. Our heart is our life force, right? It's the pulsation. It knows how to pump itself without any instruction. Has its own brain to it. So our intuition lives in our heart and in our gut, not in our head. So for me, I sometimes struggle inside because my intellectual brain will say, well, that doesn't quite make sense because I might not just be aware or tapped into it enough to make sense of it. But my heart and my gut are like, hell yes. Like brain integration, my brain was like, weird, I don't know. But my feeling was, hell yes, do this. So what do you do, right? When you've got this split? And for me, I learned how to trust my feeling, my reaction, that resonance, even though my mind was like, I don't know. Our minds are designed to keep us safe, right? And it serves a purpose. But here's what I like to say. My mind is like my GPS. I get to tell it what to focus on. So if my thoughts go into this other place, I have the power to change the dial, just like on the old days in our radio station, and to switch the channel. And then my body will resonate with that in which I focus on more. So that is it. So to answer your question, no, it's a dance for me. Have I mastered it? I think it's going to be a dance until the day I transition, candidly. Now, let's be clear. When I've gone through something like healing naturally, I can trust that now. Now, a new modality shows up. Like I'll never forget, like 3 years into this process or 2 years into my process, a shaman shows up. I'm like, that's my edge, right? That's my edge. Like that's really, so that's my point. But something had me lean in and go, just try it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to continue on the path. Just lean in. And so I did. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I got value from it. But there have been times I've leaned in and I'm like, yeah. And I one and done. So just like play with it. It's kind of like cooking in the kitchen. You know how sometimes like you just put in a different ingredient, you taste it, and you go, well, maybe I need to try something else.
I did that last night. My husband was so pleased. He was like, where did this come from? I'm like, I tried something new. Like, who knew? I'm totally in alignment with you. Oh, that's super fun. So to my tagline of say yes to the universe, right? And it doesn't mean it's for you. It might mean you go through that experience to know, wow, that was so interesting. That works for them or that's important to them. Not so much for me right now, but thank you for the experience. So I'm with you on that. I'm an adventurer too. So here we are in this time of global chaos, uncertainty, which we all know that uncertainty has always been here. It's just now amplified and we're more aware of it. And a lot of folks out of comfort zones. Where do you see yourself in this universal experience What are your feelings? What are your visions for how you show up at this time?
It's a combination of feeling outside of my comfort zone because I am actually creating and doing things and paving the way. And that brings some excitement and joy and bliss and actually peace because there's a knowingness inside of me. But it also brings up for me uncomfortable. At the core, Kristen, I want to belong. I want to belong. And there's a part of me because I like to push the envelope. I like to be a pioneer. I like to be a catalyst for change, even though it's uncomfortable. So some of the things I talk about in the film are edgy and are like, I'm taking it to the next level. But it is the truth that's going to set us all free. And so I have both realities, if that makes sense. I have moments where I'm just like in joy and bliss and peace. I'm like, yes, I got this. And then I'm like, what the frig am I doing?
I think you bring up such a really, really important point. And I think a lot of folks who receive our conversation and become part of it, this will resonate. I giggle that you said you put out all this edgy stuff because when I watched your movie, I was like, yeah, no, what she said. It wasn't edgy at all to me, right? It was just a very similar walk to me. So what that has taught me as I too get sad that I no longer fit in with the environment, the community that I had so enjoyed for so long because I'm shifting and I'm energetically different now. And so there was that feeling of loneliness. But what's happening is I get comfortable with me and this opening. I find myself in community and belonging with new people.
That's exactly it. And for me, I don't know about for you, but there's this void period for me. And I liken it to creating space. So let me give you an example. I go through this process, but it's a physical process, an emotional process, and also an energetic process where I feel called to declutter, right? And I used to do it once a year and I struggled with it in the beginning. I couldn't let go of anything. I was the woman that had 2 golf clubs, 4 pairs of golf shoes, every freaking golf outfit you could have, multiple bicycles. I mean, I had all of this stuff. Now, there's a time and a place for stuff, right? But I just had to learn to for me, less is more. And I've learned to simplify myself because I get such joy in other ways now. And it's more in relation and connection with myself and with others. Don't misunderstand. I still love material things too. But I want to share that there's a decluttering process and I liken it to love it or leave it. And I call it that, love it or leave it. Like I have clothes in my closet and I'm like, do I love them anymore? No, but I might love it someday. In my experience, that never happens because I've grown, I've evolved, my tastes have changed. I might have physically outgrown it, whatever. And it's like, bless it and let someone else have it. But I've had to learn that in relationships too, which has been the hardest thing for me. I love people. But at the same token, I long to be with people that I really resonate and I can have really deep conversations with. And not everybody's willing to go there, and that's okay. But I am desiring that on a very big way because I get supercharged from that. So what happens? When I'm in that stage, I do feel alone. But then that aloneness gives me time to really connect inside. And then I rediscover parts of myself and I ignite other parts or I light the flame even more. And I'm like, I'm really kind of cool. I kind of like myself. By the way, I never used to think that. But I'm like, hey, I'm really kind of a cool person. But there's a part of me that really wants to be in community. And we all do. At the end of the day, we all do. First, it's like getting really juicy and comfortable within ourselves and being okay with that periodness of feeling alone or feeling like whatever. It's just a transition and a growth period. And I liken it like this. It's like, listen, when you plant a seed, you see it. Do you see its stem? Do you see its, you don't see any of it. You plant it. Now you can sit there and stare at it and stare at it and stare at it and stare at it.
Grow.
Can we freaking grow? Well, you can water it more. You can add more to it. It's going to grow when it's going to grow. You're going to go through this transition period. And then what's been fascinating to me is that I birthed the film, the final version launched just before Christmas. And I had a big pivot and a big transition. And it was such a profound sadness period. On one hand, I was elated about the film, but then it was like I had already the word outgrown, and I don't mean that in a negative sense at all, but like I'd already outgrown a lot of the people that had helped me bring the film to life. And that was such sadness. And I love them all. And to this day I do. But it's like I also, in order to go to the next level with this film and the next film and what I'm drawn to do next, I've got to invite in other tribe members. And I feel strongly that you're one of them, Christin, because I feel like we're on this plane together and we're meant to co-create and we're meant to help more people rise up to their best selves and recognize that. And by the way, there is a grieving process, folks. It is a real grieving process. It's like somebody has died. I liken it to that. And even when you're letting go of, like for some of you, you're forced to let go of your corporate job. And that is very scary. Been there, done that too. But if you can see it as it is literally, it's served its purpose. Time has come. You've got to be willing to let go, to invite the new, and there's a new beginning. And like anything else, a new seed is being planted. And trust, we've all walked that path. So surround yourself with like-hearted folks like Christin and I who can support you and encourage you through that process, because it is a process. And if we're not growing, we're slowly dying. So look at it as this is a growth opportunity, folks. I have to remind myself, right, I feel uncomfortable again. Oh, that's because I'm growing. And it feels uncomfortable to grow.
I think too, I so appreciate that reflection. And I think too, this is the most conscious growth spurt I've been through. I've grown a ton through the years and done the shedding and have new experiences from that, but I was not present. It happened while I was ruminating about the past or trying to control a future. This is the most acute experience of presence. And so it's like in real time with no numbing, with no just being. And that's what's completely blowing my mind. So while you were sharing, of course, like 7 more questions come up and 7 more questions come up. And I could probably go on a mountain and talk to you for a month and share stories.
Let's do it.
Well, I think maybe we need to. But unfortunately, I'm going to end our convo for today and know that there's so many more conversations and levels that I look forward to exploring with you. So a couple points. I know what you're up to in the future, but I want to save that for the next time we connect on what's next. What are you vision casting? Because I think that's its own episode. So for now, for folks who are in the Southwest Florida area, and I know that's not all of you, or if you want to come to Southwest Florida in the end of March, I am very blessed that Jennifer is going to come to town so we can connect and hold space. And I am going to be welcoming in an intimate group of folks to come connect with Jennifer and I as we continue this conversation. So if you are interested in being in community with Jennifer and I, and there is no cost to this, this is something that Jennifer and I are going to do, and we're going to open it up again to an intimate group. Feel free to reach out, comment below, and I'll get you information on that. And be on the lookout for Jennifer's next phase of work. I will be sharing and celebrating and being a part of that as she continues to shed light on her own transformative journey. But it's not only for her own healing and her own benefit, but it's really for the lighthouse opportunity so that we can pick and choose, hey, that's a really good idea. I hadn't thought of that. Let me give that a try. So stay tuned for more on Jennifer's work. In closing, Jennifer, is there any final thought, mantra, saying that's bubbling up for you that you feel will seal this beautiful conversation between us?
So I want every one of the listeners to remember, when you are feeling doubt, when you are feeling uncertainty, remind yourself you've got this. And at the end of the day, you're at the helm. We create our reality, whether we like it or not. We do. So if you don't like where your life is now, you get to paint a brand new painting. It doesn't matter what age you are. I feel like I am like living my 5th lifetime and I just turned 50 because I am constantly reinventing and recreating yourself. It's never too late. Just follow your heart. Just explore. Go play. Allow yourself to be a kid again. Just get curious. Like, I'm going to go give that a try, or maybe I'll do this, or just whatever lights you up, lean in that direction. And just remember, you've got this, even when you think you don't.
Trust. Jennifer, thank you so much. Please know how I have chills with that final share, especially. You've impacted my life greatly in multiple ways in our short walk together. And I'm so grateful for what I know is going to be an unbelievable chapter ahead of us. To community, thanks for taking the time to be a part, to listen in. I hope this helped you find your spark within. As always, if you have questions or comments, please mark those below. Your feedback, your connectivity is what fuels Jennifer and I to be able to shed light on work and be able to hold space. So thank you for plugging in. And until next time, be love. Thank you. Bye.
You have just listened to another episode of Finding the Spark Within with Christin Collins. If you found our content valuable, visit us at christincollins.com/podcast, where you can find more episodes and amazing content. Connect with your purpose and discover ultimate joy. Join us again next time here on Finding the Spark Within.